After his death, the name King Von still sends shivers down the spines of the people of Chicago. King Von was known for being one of the coldest and deadliest men on the streets of Chicago. King Von earned a place for his name in the city's folklore, but he left a couple like-minded personalities behind. This is what happened to King Von's deadliest affiliates. This is King Von. Before he was the man that everyone feared, King Von was born on August 9th, 1994 as Devon Daquan Bennett. King Von comes from a large family with 6 half-siblings from his dad, Walter, and 3 siblings from his mom, Taisha. King Von was the firstborn of
kinda deserved it, let's be real,
he
kinda did.
She tried to provide the best life for him. Unfortunately for King Von, to the frustrations of his mom, Taisha, his dad wasn't really involved in raising him. This was initially due to being incarcerated at various points, but when Von was only 11 years old, his father was shot and later died in what was suspected to be a gang-related hit.
His father was, he was like...
Oh, wait. Is this all of them in gangs? Like he's in a gang? So his brother was in a gang and now his dad is in a gang. Like, how many gangs are there in
back and
the
forth
family?
In jail, like he was locked up most of the time, and then he passed.
Is that his mom?
So...
No way that's his mom. His mom is
beautiful.
You crazy.
However, his father's absence did not stop Von from having a good relationship with both his mom and his dad. In spite of his terrifying reputation, Von seems to have had a good relationship with his mother. Shortly before his death, he posted on Twitter about how he always wanted to make his mom proud, and he had gifted her a new house and a Benz. Welcome to O Block. Parkway Garden Homes, or O Block, is a place that is probably familiar to most of the King Von fans. Von has consistently mentioned O Block in his music. Even his final album was titled Welcome to O Block. King Von grew up in Parkway Garden Homes, which is also commonly referred to as O Block, a popular den for gang-related activities. The Black Disciples gang seemingly moved their operations point to Parkway Garden Homes, or O Block. When you think of the most dangerous blocks in Chicago, O Block should be at the top of the list. The name O Block came from the passing of a gang member by the name of O.D. Perry. Interestingly, it was believed that King Von would be responsible for killing the murderer of O.D., K.I. King Von's introduction to life on the streets comes from staying in O Block. Raising her children alone, Taisha had to settle for a low-income housing project, the Parkway Garden Apartments. Taisha moved into O Block when Von was about 9 or 10, and not long after this, at the age of 16, Von would be locked up in prison. Some of King Von's most popular songs like Crazy Story and Take Her to the O are also hugely influenced by O Block. You can make a strong argument for O Block being Von's deadliest affiliate. Other rappers from O Block like Lil Durk, Chief Keef, and Frito Santana also have affiliations with gangs in their careers.
If you out here in the streets and shit, they come with this shit. You going to jail, you getting killed, you getting robbed, you getting something gonna happen to you. We out here, this is what we signed up for, this is what we doing.
Unfortunately for King Von, it seems like everything he mentioned out here about the streets ended up happening to him. From an early age, King Von managed to get into altercations with law enforcement, and at only 16 years old, he was already jailed. This would be a consistent part of Von's life now. As Von mentioned, he spent a lot of his life locked up behind bars. Also in 2012, Von would be sentenced to a boot camp after his armed robbery charge was dropped in favor of theft. In 2013, King Von would once again be sentenced to 3 years in prison for possession of a gun by a felon. Jail time, court hearings, and lawyers would be a part of Von's life. A big change in Von's life happened in August 2012. Whitey, or White, a member of O Block, was gunned down right in front of Von. Von discusses this in his song, Whitey got killed, I seen it. I was right there, still can't believe it. Turned me to a demon. The death of his friend seems to have made him more ruthless than ever. And just by taking a look at King Von's life, you can see he truly lived a life filled with crime, death, and retaliation. This cycle is repeated over and over as we look at King Von's deadliest affiliates and what happened.
Did you hear my man's music?
Silk. It might feel a little bit unfair to add King Von's dad, Walter Bennett, aka Silk, but hear me out first. One of King Von's nicknames was Grandson. This came as a reference to the creator of the Black Disciples gang, David Barksdale, or King David. There were rumors that Von was the grandson of David. If Von was his grandson, then it's likely Silk was the son of David. Although the grandson rumors are largely unsubstantiated and might be false, Silk was said to be a legend in his own right. Unfortunately for King Von, this means he spent most of his time in jail. It is widely accepted that Silk was a respected gang member that had to be killed by a sniper from a rival gang. Not everyone can be said to have been killed by a sniper, as King Von's uncle claimed Silk was killed by. Most importantly though, it seems Silk left a lasting impression on his son despite the short time they had. Von rapped on his song, exposing him. Rest in peace to Silk from 8 Apart. That was the old of me. He also wrote on his Instagram, man, this dude right here is the definition of real. He taught me so much when it came to the street, choosing your circle wisely, and most of all, loyalty. Silk, at a part finest. When it comes to being a real loyal stand-up, it was him. I miss you, homie, in the streets, and most definitely your kids do too. Chicago haven't been the same since you left. and it would never be the same. It seems the influence of Walter Bennett on King Von's life cannot be understated, and Silk was also involved in the dangerous life of the streets. Like many of King Von's associates, friends, crewmates, and Von himself, Walter Bennett is also dead. However, the bond the two shared was inseparable. King Von only knew his dad for 3 years, as they first met when King Von was 8 years old. King Von still wished his dad Happy Father's Day on his Instagram. Big Mike. Michael Wade, also known as Big Mike to most people on the streets. From the start, Big Mike and King Von had a strange relationship, given that Mike's younger brother, FBG Wooski, was in the rival gang GD, Gangster Disciples, and King Von and BD, Black Disciples. Both Big Mike and his brother Wooski lived in Parkway Gardens, or O Block. However, they belonged to two different factions. Big Mike was a BD and Wooski was a GD. Still, Big Mike protected his little bro when they were younger, until Wooski and some other STL members killed Reezy, a member of the O Block gang. Now Big Mike could no longer protect his little bro, and they quickly drifted apart. Wooski was only 12 years old when he allegedly killed Reezy. Wooski also killed Von's homie. At this point, Big Mike had his blood brother and his gang, Broadway, trying to kill each other. In pursuit of Wooski, King Von ended up killing his cousin, Modell. This didn't make Big Mike change his alliances. In the summer of 2014, Big Mike and King Von would be hanging out at a house party when they ran into two rival gang members. One of the two men was later identified as Stucky. Von, not having the disrespect, went to go get his gun, a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson, and shot at Stucky and his friend. Stucky would later die from his wounds, but his friend survived. The cops would arrest Big Mike and Von in 2014. In prison, at some point, Big Mike would agree to testify against Von and cooperated with the police on the events that followed. Mike admitted to shooting a man in the foot, and Von shot the other people in his jaw. At the last minute during the trial, Big Mike decided against testifying against his old friend. Most people believe it must have been fear of being labeled a snitch. In 2017, both King Von and Big Mike would be acquitted of the murder charge because other witnesses refused to take the stand against Von. Big Mike, unfortunately, was sentenced to 28 years for aggravated battery with a firearm. The relationship between Big Mike and King Von had deteriorated due to Big Mike's attempts at snitching. Even worse, while in prison, King Von was responsible for his little brother, Wooski, for receiving a shot to the head. Wooski, unlike his brother, was fortunate and managed to survive the attack, although with many daily struggles. Big Mike is currently locked up. He recently won his appeal against his sentence and had it shortened from 28 years to just 11 years. Big Mike has already served 8 years and very well receive a parole date anytime soon. Back on the streets though, his life might be at risk for 17 years.
What the fuck?
Lil Durk. Derek Banks, but most of us only know him as Lil Durk. Lil Durk has slowly established himself as one of the stars of the rap game. Durk's really famous in Chicago for rapping and his gang affiliations. Although to the average fan, Lil Durk might have gone clean, but his songs reveal he's very much a member of O Block and the Black Disciples. Born October 19th, 1992, only 2 years before King Von, Lil Durk would become a mentor for King Von in the music industry, and the two of them would still cause chaos in the streets. After spending the last 3 years of his life locked up, King Von started to consider other careers. When he was in prison, he started to write rap lyrics. Seeing one of his childhood friends, Lil Durk, succeed as a rapper, King Von decided to consider rapping himself. Lil Durk was there to provide the necessary support to King Von. In 2018, Lil Durk signed King Von to his record label, Only the Family. At this point, Lil Durk had been a prominent figure in the Chicago music scene for a while. It seems natural that Lil Durk and King Von would get along so well. After all, both of them have similar upbringing. Lil Durk also had his father in jail for most of his childhood and joined the streets to feed himself. He would also serve time for possession of a firearm with a defaced serial number, a similar charge to King Von's. The decision to sign and somewhat mentor would be right for Lil.
Let's be real, like, you don't really hear things that Lil Durk does. Like, he's so quiet with things he does. He might have killed like 15 people, no one knows because he's so quiet. King Von, he says everything in his music, word for word, bar for bar, everything he's done in life. How can you say it in your music video? What do you say? What did he say again? I can't remember.
Durk, as King Von was able to gain traction with his music. His breakout track, Crazy Story, was an instant success. Over their careers, although the two never joined as a duo, Lil Durk and King Von would collaborate multiple times on songs. Beginning with King Von's first mixtape, Grandson, Durk made 2 appearances, and some of King Von's hits like Crazy Story 2.0, Still Trappin', Down Me, and Evil Twins. However, it wasn't only music that the Evil Twins collaborated on, as they called themselves. Lil Durk and King Von were involved in the shooting at the Varsity, a restaurant in Atlanta. Lil Durk and King Von robbed Alexander Witherspoon just outside the restaurant and took $30,000 in cash and his Jeep Cherokee. Witherspoon managed to survive with a wound to his leg. Both King Von and Lil Durk were charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, and street gang activities. At this time, Lil Durk was still a mentor to King Von, and it was unlikely that he would do something that Lil Durk didn't approve of, especially when Lil Durk was right there with him. Both Lil Durk and King Von had their lawyers claim they acted in self-defense. Eventually, the two were released on bonds. Lil Durk got a $250,000 bond, and King Von got a $300,000 bond, which one of the conditions were they weren't allowed to be with each other. That didn't stop them though, as they still made a song together. However, before the conclusion of the trial, King Von would be killed in 2020. In October 2022, the Fulton County DA's office dropped all charges on Lil Durk, saying, "The office has declined to indict Dirk Banks, aka Lil Durk, for the February 15th, 2019 incident because insufficient evidence exists to prove his guilt beyond reasonable doubt of a trial." He added an extra detail that made some fans suspicious after the death of King Von. Lil Durk and his lawyers blamed the offense on King Von. The DA's office added, if co-defendant Davon Bennett, aka King Von, had not died in 2020, he would have been indicted for this incident. Lil Durk is one of the few affiliates of King Von, not dead and not in jail. However, it remains to be seen how long Lil Durk can evade Von saying about the street life. T-Roy. At just 5'2", you might be surprised to find out that T-Roy was one of the most respected and feared hitters from O-Block. He was a dangerous man that could drop someone in a second. T-Roy was also King Von's best friend. Born October 30th, 1993, James Johnson, aka T-Roy, like Von and some other people on this list, grew up in Parkway Gardens. It's almost as if life on the streets was set up for him. T-Roy belonged to the Wick Gang before the name was changed to O-Block in honor of the fallen O.D. Perry. It was actually the death of O.D. Perry that kickstarted T-Roy's murders. In 2012, T-Roy is alleged to have killed for the first time. 16-year-old Dale Fisher of STL, the rival gang that killed O.D. Perry, was the first victim of T-Roy through a drive-by shooting. At the time of the shooting, Von was still in prison, but when he was released, he was impressed with the work done by T-Roy, and the two started rolling together. On April 28, 2012, T-Roy allegedly dropped his second body. Marlon Monroe, aka Lil Doc of Tukaville. After doing a paint job for a family member, Doc was walking to a store to get a drink, where he was eventually shot. It was not long after that T-Roy hit another person, Triel Joshua, Dirty Rail from Jarrow City. Not long after this, King Von's then best friend, Whitey, would be killed by a rival gang. The death of Whitey brought T-Roy and Von closer, and soon after, they will be involved in shootings together. One of their first victims together was Modell, who was shot by King Von. Miles Turner, an innocent person unaffiliated with gangs who was just talking to a girl, saw his cousin Modell shot and ran attempting to shield his cousin, and also ended up being shot by Von. Miles was hurt so badly that after one surgery, his doctors told his father that his intestines fell through their hands when they picked up his intestines. Miles survived after spending weeks in a coma, but was confined to a wheelchair, killing his chances of being a pro footballer. We got official police reports to prove all the parties involved in this: Miles, Modell, T-Roy, and Von. In the reports, both Von is the confirmed shooter and T-Roy was there. The case wasn't prosecuted though, because no one wished to testify against Von and T-Roy. At this point, it was obvious. Von was also a cold-blooded killer like his friend T-Roy. Another victim of T-Roy and Von was P5 from Jarrow City. After the death of one of their homies, Sheroyd, T-Roy was looking for revenge, and P5 Crack was the unfortunate victim. Although P5 Crack had lost interest in gang life and was getting ready to leave Chicago, he was specifically targeted before he left. Lured by prospects of beating his ex-girlfriend, all P5 got was bullets to his head from T-Roy and King.
Now I get it. That Wayne story, that was real. He actually done that drilling.
His body was so deformed that his family had trouble identifying his body. King Von posted several tweets after his death, effectively claiming responsibility for his death and taunting rival gangs. Without a doubt, T-Roy was the only person comparable to King Von. He also had a criminal record to back up his claims. This earned him respect on the streets and put fame on whoever could kill him. When King Von was in prison with Big Mike for Stucky's murder, he needed a lot of money for his lawyers. T-Roy was hustling the money when he was killed by the Jarrow City gang as revenge for the murder of Tyrell. King Von was in prison, and all he could do was cry. Muwop. After death, life moves on. After the death of T-Roy, and when King Von got out of prison, King Von started moving with Marcus Smart, aka Muwop. Muwop is rumored to have carried out a couple of shootings for O-Block. Muwop also grew up on O-Block and was a member of the Black Disciples. At some point, Muwop was seen as the next big thing in the O-Block line of huge rappers like Chief Keef, Lil Durk, and King Von, with one of his singles, For Real, gaining 500k views on YouTube, 50k streams on Spotify, and 100k plays on Apple Music in 2 weeks. However, However, things have not gone so well for Muwop. Currently, Muwop has been arrested by the feds for the murder of Carlton Weekly, who's known as FBG Duck. FBG Duck was a gang member of the GD, Gangster Disciples, who the Black Disciples clashed with. Von also had a particular beef with FBG Duck for years. It's alleged that King Von had placed a bounty on Duck's head for $50,000 and then increased the prize to $100,000. Before his death, Duck had tried to make peace with Von and other members of the O Block. Unfortunately, FBG Duck was killed in broad daylight on August 4th, 2020 in the Gold Coast neighborhood of Chicago. It's said that 4 people got out of 2 different cars and opened fire on him. Muwop was widely thought to be one of his murderers. King Von was so happy with the job that he allegedly bought everyone in O Block a new chain. Muwop was arrested with 4 other people, including Charles Liggins, aka C Murder, Kenneth Robertson, aka Kenny, Carlos Offord, aka Los, and Christopher Thomas, aka C-Thang. The federal indictment places a low chance of escape for Muwop and his co-defendants because the feds usually don't miss when it comes to prosecution. The indictment alleges the O Block gang has publicly claimed responsibility for the acts of violence in Chicago and used social media and music to promote their criminal gang. Muwop and the others face a minimum of life and a maximum of death in federal prison for the murder count, in addition to other counts that include a firearm count and also a maximum of the death penalty.
O Block is probably over now.
Finally, rounding up on the Deadliest affiliates, going back to Von. When asked about his music being a bit violent and crazy, Von simply answered, "Yeah, it's O Block. It's poverty." You might be wondering what an entire building is doing on this list. Well, the 6400 block of South Dr. Martin Luther King Drive, popularly known as O Block, isn't just any building. It was like the headquarters of gang activities. As mentioned earlier in this video, after the demolition of Randolph Towers, which was usually called the Calumet Building, in 2006, the gangs there moved to a new location. The Parkway Garden Apartments were the unfortunate next hub for the Black Disciples gang. Von lived in O Block and gained a lot of his street cred doing jobs for O Block. For instance, the police reports that implicated Von in the murder of a rival gang member, Shakir Barnes, K.I. And you see K.I. was alleged to have killed a 20-year-old O.D. Perry in 2011.
Oh my days, imagine if he was alive and then they watched that documentary of him. From Trap Law Ross, the police. Oh, he would have been done. He would have got like 300 years, probably death penalties, probably something.
Block was later named after. In an interview about Welcome to O Block, when asked about living in O Block, mentioned,
even if he was alive,
O Block, that's a housing project on 64th Kings Drive. 64th, 65th, that's where I was living. It's low income. Single mothers over there with their kids. You know how that shit goes. He later added, "My mom moved over there when I was like 9 or 10, and then I got locked up at like 16, and they kicked us out because I got locked up." King Von seems to have remained loyal to his hood, and this is usually remembered very kindly. O.D. Perry was killed way back in 2011, but the retaliations of his gang seems to have only come in 2014. Although the circumstances of King Von's death are complicated because he was shot up and killed in Atlanta by a local gang in Atlanta, O Block is based in Chicago. Typically, across different states and different areas like that, it's difficult to plan a hit. This also might expose their faction, O Block, to other gangs. However, many people believe there will be a retaliatory hit from O Block for King Von. There has already been an attempted shooting on the car of Quando Rondo, one of the men involved in King Von's death. There have also been some attempted shootings of Quando Rondo's associates as far back as December 2020. A music producer associated with Quando Rondo had his car sprayed with more than a dozen bullets from an automatic firearm 1 month after the death of King Von. Worried about his safety, Quando Rondo had to cancel a lot of his shows. It was possible for an affiliate of King Von to get into the concert and attack him. King Von's uncle claimed OTF and O Block would keep the pressure on Quando Rondo. It's been 2 years since the death of King Von, and people still expect some kind of retaliation. There's some precedent for this though. In 2011, O.D. Perry, a prominent member of the O Block gang, was killed by a rival gang. It wasn't until 3 years later in 2014 that O Block got their revenge for OD. So it is possible there are still plans for Timothy Leaks, Lil Tim, who has been identified as the shooter in the murder of King Von. Looking back at all that, King Von was crazy. Von killed so many people that after his death, their family members were rejoicing. He also rode with deadly people. It's been 2 years since he passed. Do you expect there's anyone out there still trying to avenge him? Or do you think all his allies are dead?
I think, of course they're gone. I just don't get this. Like the way he moved, it was pretty sure everyone knew that something was gonna happen to him. Come on, let's be real now. His music, you can tell from his music, the way he raps everything, Twitter. Come on now, something was going to happen. Even if he was alive today, he'll still be in prison. So that's God's work. Let's be real, it's God's work.